Today, we're not just talking about a football player. No, this is more of a case study, really. It's about how one boy from Madeira basically engineered his own evolution into one of the most powerful athletes and, frankly, one of the most powerful brands in history. This is the story of Cristiano Ronaldo, the institution. To really get the scale of this, you just have to look at the contrast between the start and the finish line. On one side, his origin story, 4 kids, 1 room under a tin roof. On the other side, where he's heading, a net worth of over $1 billion and a global business. The massive chasm between these two realities, well, that's the story we're going to explore. So that's the real question, isn't it? How does anyone actually bridge that gap? It's so easy to just say talent, but it's so much more than that. We're talking about a series of deliberate transformations, overcoming what seemed like impossible obstacles, and a relentless, almost inhuman level of drive. And we're going to break this journey down by looking at it from 3 different angles. His biology, which almost ended his career before it even got started, his social environment, which is what really forged that incredible drive, and of course, the economic machine he so carefully built around himself. Okay, so it all starts here, in what you could only call a crucible of hardship. To really understand the man he became, you absolutely have to understand the world he came from. I mean, just look closely at these circumstances. We're talking about extreme scarcity here. His dad was struggling with alcoholism after the war, and his mom was so stretched by poverty that she actually thought about not going through with the pregnancy. An environment like that doesn't just shape you, it arms you with an absolutely desperate need to escape. And for him, football was the only way out. You can see just how fast it all happened. By the time he's 10, he's already a local phenomenon. And by 12, just 12 years old, he's leaving the island for the mainland, signed by one of the biggest clubs in Portugal. The escape plan was officially in motion. But the move to Lisbon wasn't some fairy tale. He was a total outsider, and the other kids relentlessly mocked him for his thick accent. This story about the chair, it's a perfect window into his mind at the time. Incredibly proud, defensive, and explosive. This wasn't just a kid being angry. It was a fierce, passionate defense of where he came from, a trait that would really define his entire career. Then, at 15, a crisis that could have ended everything. Bam! He's diagnosed with a heart condition, a racing heart, that put his entire future in jeopardy. For most kids, that's it. Career over. But Ronaldo? He has laser surgery and is back on the training pitch within days. Days. This is really the first time we see that almost superhuman resilience that would become his trademark. And you have to think this is the genesis of his obsession with physical perfection. So you have this incredibly raw, emotional, resilient talent. But it needed to be refined. And that's exactly what happened in his next big transformation. Let's call it the Manchester method. The process that turned him from a flashy showman into a stone-cold killer in front of goal. In 2003, Manchester United paid over £12 million for him. Now think about that for a second. That's a record-breaking fee for an 18-year-old who was mostly seen as a flashy dribbler, a show-off. Sir Alex Ferguson didn't just buy a player, he was investing in pure, raw potential. And this right here, this is how they unlocked it. Coach Rene Meilenstein's method was totally radical for the time. They essentially rewired his brain. They told him, stop trying to score the perfect goal. Just score goals, any kind of goal. They broke the penalty box down into zones, drilled him on how to finish from each one, and they perfected that iconic swerving knuckleball free kick. They literally turned his art into a science. And the results? Well, they were undeniable. 3 league titles, a Champions League trophy, and his very first Ballon d'Or, naming him the best player in the world. The show-off from Madeira was now the most deadly and effective attacker on the entire planet. So once you're the best player on the planet, where do you go from there? Well, that set the stage for the absolute apex of his career in Madrid. This was the top of the pyramid, an era that was all about staggering numbers and one of the most legendary rivalries in all of sports. 450. That number is just insane. That's how many goals he scored for Real Madrid. And get this, it only took him 438 games. That is more than a goal a game every game for 9 years straight. It's a level of consistency that, honestly, it just doesn't even seem real. And of course, you cannot talk about this era without talking about Lionel Messi. This chart is fascinating because it shows you exactly how they pushed each other to be great. You can see it clear as day. Ronaldo was the more lethal finisher, more hat tricks, more penalties. Messi was the playmaker, the magician. I mean, look at that dribbling number. It's astronomical. This wasn't just a rivalry, it was a dualism that basically defined a whole decade of football. And the result of all that competitive fire? A dynasty. Simple as that. 4 Champions League titles, including 3 in a row, which is something that just doesn't happen in the modern era. By the time he was done in Madrid, he'd racked up 5 Ballon d'Or awards, putting him level with Messi at the time. But, as his athletic peak began to level off, another evolution was happening in the background. This is the big pivot, the moment he transforms from a legendary athlete into a global business entity. And this whole business transition got a major push forward from a very public, very messy divorce. These words from that famous Piers Morgan interview, they weren't just a complaint. They were a bomb. He was deliberately detonating his relationship with European football's elite, and that cleared the way for a move that would totally change the sport's financial landscape. And he landed in Saudi Arabia with a contract that is it's mind-boggling. Look at these numbers from his extension. This is not just a salary. It's an ownership stake in the club, a 0% tax rate. The total value made him football's first official billionaire. He wasn't just signing on as a player, he was signing on as a partner in a huge national project. And this chart here perfectly illustrates how the CR7 brand operates now. It's a totally diversified portfolio. We're so far beyond just selling shoes at this point. He's got a film studio, a hotel chain, venture capital investments, a massive health and wellness brand. The footballer is now a full-on conglomerate. So all of that brings us to today. When you've got all the money you could ever imagine and all the trophies, what's left? What could possibly still drive you? Well, for Ronaldo, it's about chasing numbers that just seem impossible. By late 2025, his official career goal count was sitting at a staggering 956. And to put that in perspective, he was still scoring at an elite level well into his late 30s and even his early 40s. And he has absolutely no plans of stopping. This quote says everything you need to know. The next huge, almost mythical target is right there in his sights. 1,000 official career goals, a number that no one ever thought was even remotely reachable. Which relieves us with this one last question. He escaped poverty. He conquered world football. He built a billion-dollar empire. And he's chasing a number that sounds like science fiction. After all that, what's left? What does ambition even look like when you've already conquered everything?